My name is Doug McGowan, and I'm 40 years old, and this is my story of what God has done in my life. I was abused as a child. I experienced a lot of abuse from my dad, verbal and physical. Through that, I developed a lot of fear, anger, rage, and resentment towards my father. And with my family, my brothers and sisters and my dad, there was a lot of alcohol and drug abuse. My older sister OD'd on heroin, and my next to oldest sister tried to hang herself when she was really young. There was just a lot of abuse in the family throughout. My older brother was sexually abused by my father, and but ironically with that, I was afraid of drugs and alcohol because I seen what it did to my family. I seen the destruction that it had on my family. So I started dealing with my pain through sex and pornography, starting around age 7 with my neighbors, just experimenting. I found pornography magazines in my neighbor's house, and I just went from there. At around 10 to 14 years of age, within that time I was in and out of 3 mental hospitals. My parents just couldn't handle me anymore, with just a lot of physical fights that I would cause, just out of fear of my dad. And those hospitals that I was in was 3 months at a time, and I was just extremely resentful towards my dad. Me and my father would have these physical fights where I remember there would be blood on the walls from him banging my head up against it and squeezing the breath out of me. Just, felt just trapped. And there was one time I ran him down in the middle of the street, and I took a hammer to his head, and I was gonna beat him up. I was gonna face him with it, and I remember him looking at me, and with tears in his eyes, he said, "Go ahead and do it." He wanted me to kill him. So I developed a lot of depression just from going through all that stuff. I felt so bad that there was times that I just felt like I was dying, literally dying, and I was afraid to be raised by my father. So I would cling to my mom just because I wanted to protect her, and I wherever she went, I would go, and I refused to go to school. I would make myself sick to get out of school. I would just cry myself to sleep. I wanted God to take me out of this world, and I was afraid to do it myself because for some reason, I just felt like God has a purpose for all this, and I didn't understand all that. I guess I was just hanging on to what little hope I had, and I was around 10 years old when I was going through all this, just feeling utterly lost, lonely, and like nobody understood what I was going through. And I got married at age 22. I figured that would be an answer to all my problems, with sexual lust, but I realized quickly that wasn't the answer. And even when I was married, I kept pursuing sex, even to it just snowballed, and it just got much, much deeper. This took my guilt to a much higher level, my anger and guilt to a much higher level. And between the ages of 18 and 30, I was in more than 12 car wrecks. I flipped 2 of them, totaled 6, and the 2 cars that I flipped, it was only within a week of each other. But it's amazing because I didn't do any drugs. I never even smoked marijuana. I rarely drank, just because I saw the destruction in my family. But all those car wrecks were because I was completely sober from drugs or alcohol, and it was just out of anger. For years, I've put myself in many dangerous situations and places. I would go to Gary, Indiana, almost every night. I seen a man get shot in Gary in the head. I was in this place where you view pornography, and it's a very, very, very dark place. There's prostitutes there, and I remember going in there and seeing this guy up at the bar talking to these girls, and I bypassed that and went into a separate part of the building. And quite a bit later, I heard a lot of commotion, and I heard this gang come in, and they grabbed this guy and they took him outside, and I knew something was going on, but I was so wrapped up in my sin. I was so wrapped up in what I was there for that it didn't matter. I mean, there was something very dangerous going on right outside of the room, and I just didn't care. After a while, I heard a lot more commotion, a lot of yelling, and so I got out of there and I walked outside, and there was this man laying face up with his eyes wide open and a bullet hole right in the middle of his forehead. And I had to step over his body to get to my car. It was right outside the door. And I just got in my car and left. I saw the police officer arresting this guy. They looked at me, didn't even ask me any questions, and I'm just amazed that I walked out of there completely unharmed. In 2004, I almost died of an asthma attack due to my behavior, my sexual behavior. I was in the hospital for 10 days. They said that I almost passed out from this asthma attack, and once you do that, I guess with asthma, you're pretty much done. And I remember coming to the point where just everything was going black, my vision was going dark, and I was going to pass out. And somehow God must have gave me the strength to get in my car, drive to the hospital, and I was there for 10 days. I think it was 2003, somewhere around there, 2004, that my dad had he got cancer, and he got sick, very sick. He was in a coma. I knew that I had to go. So I left to go about 3 hours away to see him at this hospital, and they were telling my family was telling me that it's not looking good. He's going to die, and I need to get down there. So knowing this, while I'm traveling all this way to go see him, I passed by this adult bookstore, and I couldn't pass it up. It was a new place that I've never been before, and the rush just started going in my mind, and I just had to take time out to go visit this place. I took 2 hours at this place just viewing pornography while my dad was dying, and by the grace of God, I got there in time. I just felt the need to ask for his forgiveness, and I held his hand. I remember this. I held his hand and I said, "Dad, if you're waiting for me to forgive you, I forgive you. And I hope that you can find some way to forgive me too." And immediately he squeezed my hand, and the next day he died. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't get that chance, and I just feel so fortunate that God gave me the grace. About 2 months after that, my mom calls me up, and she tells me that my niece, her name is Dusty, and she was killed by her boyfriend in a drug party. she had open heart surgery a couple weeks before this, and she still had the scar or the stitches, and her boyfriend just ran her over with his car. He was high. They were doing drugs. Him and my older sister, which is her mom, they were doing drugs together, and he just ran her over. But what's amazing is, weeks before this, Dusty had called me up, and she says, "I feel the need to pray to God. Can you pray with me?" And I didn't know. I hadn't come to Christ yet. I didn't know anything about praying to God or how to pray. But I led her in a prayer that hopefully that led to salvation. I don't really know, but it was just amazing to see how God was working. And about 2 or 3 months after that one, my mom calls me up again and tells me that my older sister, which was Dusty's mom, was killed in a car wreck. They were running from the police. They had alias names, and they were living out of their van, and they were killed in Tennessee. And I just felt like 3 deaths and 1 murder in just a matter of a year, with less than a year. It was a lot to take. At this point, I just felt like my life was just too hard for God. Even if He would want me, there was no way that He could save me from my own destruction. I was running fast away from God and more into my sinful lifestyle. I just felt like a demon working for the devil. I would have so much rage and fear and anger towards just anybody that would walk by, and just ready to pick fights with anybody. And I didn't realize how deep in darkness I was. And for 10 years I was involved in a 12-step group for sexaholics, and that got me nowhere. In fact, it gave me ideas on how to go more and more into my sin, and it wasn't good. I've spent nights sleeping in my car when I was kicked out of my house from my behavior. I was in and out of marriage counseling for 13 years, but not once did they ever point out my selfishness. I found that pretty amazing, that they couldn't really see that. I have sexually been involved with men and women, of about 15 to 30 people a week for the past 10 years. That's no exaggeration. That's how deep this sin can take you. And I was a male stripper for a time. I was masturbating 10 to 20 times a day, to the point of injuring myself. I would go to massage parlors, strip clubs, swinger clubs, bookstores, orgy parties. It didn't matter. I was up for anything. I was just going all out. I remember several times going to Gary to get a prostitute in the middle of the night. No gas, running on fumes, no money. I wasn't even sure how I would get a prostitute, but I was there, and I would. Prostitutes who were strung out on crack. Again, it was amazing that I've never done any drugs, even in that lifestyle. And chasing down pimps, running through red lights in the middle of Gary. Again, they were armed. They had guns. I didn't have anything. I thought I was invincible. But it just reminds me of how much protection God has placed in my life. I was stopped by the police in Gary one time. I was out there cruising the streets for a prostitute, and I remember there was about 4 or 5 squad cars just swarmed in my car, and from the situation that I was in, I was there by myself. I was looking for somebody, and it was obvious that I was there for a prostitute, and I was pretty devastated. And it got even worse when one of the cops came up to my car and they go, "Are you Doug McGowan?" This can't be good. And it was a guy that I went to high school with. And they put the handcuffs on me and they were going to run me in. And I faked being sorry. I wasn't sorry. I was going to go out again right after I left them. But I faked being sorry, and they said, "Oh, if you promise to never come back, we'll let you go." 2 months later, in the same area, doing the same thing, those same squad cars, I remember every single one of those cops, they stopped me again, and this time they were just so mad. Along with my high school friend there again, they did the same thing, put the handcuffs on me, and still let me go. And I don't understand that. Going to Gary and the south side of Chicago, where all the gangs are and the prostitutes and the drugs, it just became like home to me. I felt very comfortable going out there, where at one time it was a huge rush. It just shows you where this sin will take you. There's no boundaries. I was lost in sin, thinking I had no way out, that this was my life forever, and it's just going to get worse. I'm going to die this way. I'm going to get killed, shot in the head like that guy, or get AIDS, or whatever. I knew that, and I just didn't know how to stop. I became very desperate for answers. I started playing around with Ouija boards and seances and using parapsychology to channel spirits, getting involved in the very dark spiritual world. And after trying everything, I just became so desperate. I felt no hope. I mean, absolutely none that I could think of, and it just was going down fast. There was a place in Kentucky called Pure Life Ministries. Pure Life Ministries helps men and women who struggle with sexual bondage from all over the world. It's a place in Kentucky, and it's a place you go and live there for 6 to 12 months. And I knew about this place from a friend of mine who was going through the program, and I needed a place to stay because I got kicked out for the last time. My wife had finally had enough, and I needed a place to stay. And I called him up because I knew that his house was vacant because he was at this ministry living there. And he said, you can stay there for a while, but you know what the real answer is, and that is to come to Pure Life. And I didn't want to hear that, because I knew that would mean giving up everything. Even though I was desperate, I wasn't ready. So I stayed at this house for a couple months, and my friend tricked me. He said, well, at least come down for my graduation. And I kind of figured where he was going with this, and I said, okay. And I went down with his wife. I took his van. She was driving his car, and as soon as I pulled into that place, I felt like God was pulling me, but I was fighting hard, and I was about ready to turn around and go back home. But I had his van, so I couldn't do that. And so I pulled in, and I stayed there for a couple hours, just talking to the guys. And it's amazing how much God works. He used somebody there, their testimony, to give me hope. And he was saying his dad had gone through that program, and he's living free of this sexual bondage. So immediately I changed my thoughts, and I started making steps to go down to this place. I had to give up everything. My job, my family, I had to leave them. I had a good paying job. I had to leave that just to live there for 6 months. And this was out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know anybody there. It was a big step. Before I would go, they tell me I was behind 3 months on my mortgage. And the program was about $1,200. So I had to come up with about $5,000. And I knew that my life was completely out of control. I was going to so many places that was so dangerous. If I didn't go quick, I was going to die. I just knew it. And that's when a lot of interesting things came about. Liberty Bible Church kept coming up in conversation. I'd been to churches here and there, but Liberty Bible Church kept coming up, and so I figured maybe God wanted me there for some reason. And so I found out about this men's Bible study that goes on Wednesday nights. This was in May of 2006, and I was just extremely shy, and I didn't want to go. But I was just so desperate. I just knew that I had to find a way to get down to this place, this Pure Life Ministries. And so I just went to this Bible study, and I walked in. There was these guys having this study, and I just poured my heart out to them. I told them why I was there. I told them my story. I told them how deep in sin I had been, and they were touched. They said, "You need to go to this place." And I told them my obstacle. It was humbling because I didn't want to ask for help, but I told them my desperate situation, and I have to go. And so within a couple of weeks, they contacted me, and they said that I got the money from the church and help from my friend in Hawaii. In conjunction with that, along with about $1,000 in my 401k, I had the $5,000 within a couple of weeks. And God led me to Liberty for that reason, I feel. And one amazing thing, though, most ministries take a break in the summer, and this was the beginning of that break. But they felt that for some reason God was wanting them to stay one more week, and they had told me this later. And that was the reason, is because I hadn't shown up there yet. I just saw God's hand in that. And I mean, at this point, I hadn't surrendered my life yet. I was searching, and He was encouraging me because I could see Him in this. So with the willingness to repent, God started pouring His grace out on me in large amounts. I remember after going to this program in Kentucky, sitting in chapel, feeling so broken on what I was like inside, what my heart was like. And I consider myself to be a nice person. I would help people, and even with all the anger and the fear, I still thought I was a nice person. But God started to show me what I was like in light of Him and what He requires. And that just broke me. I just started weeping. I just started bawling like a baby in this chapel. And there was worshiping going on. There was a lot of singing, and then the pastor who was leading that worship just stops everything, and everything got quiet. And the only thing you could hear is just me crying like a baby. It was so embarrassing. And I knew God was doing something. I didn't know what. I don't even remember what the sermon was about, but I just knew God was doing something in my heart. And that moment of silence in that chapel of over 100 people lasted about a half an hour, and I just couldn't stop crying. I tried so hard, and I just couldn't stop. And I realized how evil and prideful my heart was. And I believe this is mercy, because without God showing me that, I wouldn't have seen my need for Him. God showed me how lost I was, how mean and cruel I was to my family, how much I treated them like dirt. I needed to love them. That's what He showed me. He told me I needed to love them. I needed to be a provider and protector of my family. And I wasn't any of those things. God has taken my sins and my wicked heart upon Himself. He has given me a new heart. And God's mercy and grace made me realize who Jesus the Christ really was. How much He suffered on that cross. Before I would hear about Jesus dying on the cross, even for my sin, and I would understand that, at least I thought I did. But what I didn't understand is that all the things that went on behind the scenes, of all the sins of everyone that was laid upon Him, the wrath of God that was poured out on Jesus. It says in Isaiah that it pleased God to crush Him. And that just amazes me. That's how much God wants fellowship with me, is that He sent His one and only Son to do that. And I believe that if I was the only person on earth that would need a Savior, that He would still go through all that just for me. And I believe that He would do the same thing for anybody, no matter what they've done. I'm living proof of that. I've done so many wrong things. Now that I have surrendered my life to Jesus, I thought, everything will be all right now. Everything will be smooth. And I would like to say that after coming to Jesus and graduating from the Pure Life Ministries program, that I didn't ever go back. But that would be a lie. I did go back. But the thing is, it was different. I was miserable. I mean, I was miserable before, but I knew that I was hurting Jesus every time that I would do this. And I just felt the need to cry out to Him. Every time I would mess up, I would call up my counselor from Pure Life. Every time I would just exhaust him. There was times that he didn't know what to say or what to do, and he just said, keep being honest. I don't care how many times you fall, just keep calling and keep telling the truth, because the truth will set you free. And it does, because just over a period of time, eventually I stopped going out to the bookstores. I stopped getting the prostitutes. And there was times that I just felt like I was literally going to die if I didn't go to one of those places or get anybody. And I remember just going through that, just suffering through it and just praying that God would help me, and calling out to my counselor and just telling him what I was going through. And I believe that when you expose sin for what it really is, and you bring that into the light, it loses its grip eventually. It has to stay in the darkness to survive and to grow stronger, and that's exactly what it does if you stay in darkness. And just like it says in Acts 18 and John 1, you expose sin, and when you bring it into the light, sin cannot live in the darkness, and it has to live in the darkness to survive. So that's why you expose sin. And the more I did it, the easier it became, and the less and less I was messing up. In March of 2009, I went on a mission trip to Mexico City with a few people from my church. I prayed God would not let me leave there until I learned just a big lesson from going on this trip. And while I was there, I visited a local ministry for mentally challenged women that were single moms that had children, and there was these just depressing rooms that they would just be in. It just reminded me a lot of when I was a child going through the mental hospitals, just being alone. Just a lot of that came back when I was visiting these women. I guess I just started to realize God's calling for my life at that moment. And after we got back to the States, after that trip, a group of us decided to get together for a morning prayer time at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. And that lasted for about 3 or 4 months. And in this prayer time, we were just feeling led to pray just for a revival in our own hearts. And as I did that, it started to become more and more clear on what God wanted me to do. And I was just seeking that diligently because I really felt an urgency in my heart and just a passion to do something, but I wasn't sure what it was. I asked God when I was a kid why I was going through all that trouble back in my childhood, the depressing times. And 30 years, approximately 30 years later, was the time that we were doing this prayer time, and that's when the answer came of when that question I answered 30 years ago came to me. And it was because of the calling that He had on my life is the reason why I went through all that as a child. Just because He wanted me to minister to the people that are going through depressing times and that are without hope. A lot of the things that I went through. And back in September 2009, a friend that was praying with me in those prayer times every morning asked me to go to this trailer park to pray for the people there. And I didn't have anything to do that day, so I thought, this would be interesting. So I went along, and long story made short, that pretty much started a ministry. We went through door to door to these people, and we were rejected several times, and we were getting discouraged, and we were about ready to call it a day. We weren't getting anywhere, and so we tried one more trailer, and this man answered the door, and he was just so ready for somebody to unload his life on them. He was going through some depressing times. He was feeling suicidal, and he told us later that he was just ready to tell the next person who he saw just about his life. And he talked to us for about 2 hours that day. We were total strangers to him. That started a ministry, just ministering to everybody in that trailer park that rejected us in the beginning. And then God spoke. I felt God spoke to me and wanted me to move into a trailer park that is near Gary, Indiana, where there's a lot of drugs, prostitution, just a lot of corruption in that area. And there was approximately 1,000 trailers in the immediate area, and they were all just poverty, despair, just all kind of hopelessness. And so I made that decision. When I was doing this, making this decision, a lot of the people that were in the ministry with me just kind of up and leave for different reasons. Reasons that they had that they were going through at their life at that moment. They ended up having to leave the area. And then I felt like God was telling me that He started this ministry for me to do, and He wanted me to move in alone. And that was a very trying time. It was very scary. But I knew that this is what He wanted me to do. In June of 2010, I moved the trailer that was donated to the ministry. I moved it into this park in Portage near Gary, Indiana. And the next day, after I moved it in, a tornado went through that park, and an oak tree just ended up landing on top of my trailer. and I was just devastated. I thought, I moved this trailer here. I'm doing what God has told me to do, and now this happens, and I just got so discouraged. And while I was there, showing up the next day to clean the trailer to get it fit to live in, a group of my neighbors were there just standing around because it was the only trailer that was hit in that area, and they saw me pull up and they were saying, looks like God protected your trailer. And I thought, are you kidding me? This is terrible. And I said to them, I feel like God doesn't even want me here, that I made a terrible mistake. And my neighbor said, no, it's the devil who doesn't want you here, because she's been praying for 6 years for someone come in to that trailer park and show these people hope. And that was just another thing that showed me that God was in this. And since this ministry, many tests have come, trials have come, and just feeling alone, separated from my church family, just for different reasons. Family issues that required my full attention. I had to take some time away from the ministry so I could focus on them. And then just feeling an extreme sense of loneliness and depression. And then something hit me. I remember when I first started this, I felt like God was telling me in prayer one time that if I want to do this ministry and reach the people that are lost in hopelessness and depression, that I would have to go through some things myself. And that gave me strength to keep going. And then one of the most devastating things happened just this past Easter of 2011. On Easter night, I get a call from my mom at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just knew something was horribly wrong. She said that my brother-in-law broke into my sister's place and shot her, killed her. He got drunk, he broke in, and he shot her 8 times with an AK-47. And this ended up being a third killing in my family, a second murder. And I didn't know what to think, what to say. It was just a lot to bear. And I thought, God is allowing this for some reason. And that thought of it kept coming back to me that I needed to go through some things to reach people. And then, like I was saying, I just fallen into different old bad habits of my lust, my sexual lust, and sexual addiction. I just felt the need to bring that into the light and let people know what was going on, people in the church, and then I felt the need to go back down to Pure Life Ministries just for a visit, just to talk to the people there that had ministered to me while I was there before, when I lived there in the program. And I came back. It was just an enormous healing that God had done. He completely delivered me from all sexual lusts, from masturbation. There was that was one thing that had always stayed hard. That was one thing that always stayed with me, even after graduating from the program and coming to Christ. I would always fight so hard to get rid of that, and I just never could. And then after going down for that visit, I came back, and now it's been a couple months, and nothing, no hold on me whatsoever. It's been just a total deliverance. My love and faith has been strengthened through these trials and through my own bad choices. It's just truly amazing how God works. Just even in our own choices, He turns that around when we truly are seeking Him. Through so many things that I went through as growing up and into my adulthood, going through sexual orgies and just being with so many people for so many years, I felt the need to get tested for STDs, sexual transmitted diseases, and I was terrified. Because I knew the risk. I knew that there was almost 100% guarantee that I would have something, just because of being with so many people, approximately thousands of people that I've been with over the years. And the results came back of being completely free from everything. But one result did say that I used to have hepatitis B, and now the nurse was saying she doesn't understand it, but my body got rid of it somehow. And I was just so thankful. And another one is, I used to be diagnosed with ADD, and was on the highest medication that they could put a person on. 3 times a day, just popping these pills for Ritalin and for this ADD. And when I went down, because I had to leave my job to go down to Pure Life, I was losing my insurance, and I couldn't afford the medication anymore. And my counselor had told me, well, maybe this is a way that God wants to show you that He's all you need, that you don't need this medication. And I thought, that's absurd. I need this medication. It's proven. And the Lord had other plans, and He did show me that I didn't need that. And it's been, again, 5 years since I've been on that medication, and I'm perfectly fine. There's one thing that I wanted to talk about. One of these, from time to time I would go up with a friend of mine to the streets of Chicago to street preach, and in the subways of Chicago. And there was this one time that we went up there and we passed by this beggar who was laying down on the ground in one of the hallways down below the streets in the subways, and he had this cup out, and he was just begging for money, and he was violently shaking so much that it was shaking the money in his cup, and it was just so apparent that something was wrong with him. And I thought to myself as I passed by him that he's just wanting, he's a beggar, he's just wanting our money. And looking back on it, I'm thinking, how horrible it is for me to just to think that of somebody. But we passed by, we went up to the subway and did our thing out there, street preaching. And then a group of guys came by that we didn't even know, and one had said that he passed by this guy, this beggar downstairs that was just shaking so terribly, and he felt the need to go pray for him, but he wanted one of us to go with him. So I agreed to go down, but thinking that nothing's going to happen. We're just going to go pray, and he's going to beg for our money, and that's it. He's just going to continue to do what he's doing. And so we went down, and it was just out of the book of Acts how this came about. We went up to him, and we were telling him, we don't have any money to give him, but what we do have, we want to pray for him. And we asked if that was okay, and he said sure. So we laid hands on him, and about 30 seconds into the prayer, he just stops shaking, and he falls just limp, and he's just so still and so calm. And I thought he had passed out, but I opened my eyes, and he's just weeping. He's just crying so hard. And then after we get done praying, he just jumps up and he starts running up and down the hall, running up to people, saying that Jesus has saved him, and that he has healed him from this shaking of 14 years. And I was just amazed, of just how much little faith I had going into this, that God still showed up, and he came for the sick. And I was just so grateful to be a part of that God would even use me. I want to tell you all this just to show how crazy things can be when you're out living outside of God's will. When you're trying to do things on your own, trying to do things in your own strength. I just feel like you have to come to a point where you just give up. That is, give up on your own strength, on your own self, on trying to do things on your own, and just totally surrender to what God has done on the cross. That is, dying for our sins, for each person's sins. And just accept what He has done so you could be set free. So any one of us could be set free from the things that has just kept us in bondage, in hopelessness, in darkness. Because I just feel like that God has proven that on what He has done in my life. And I feel like He just wants me to share that with people who are right now just listening to this and just feeling like just total hopelessness. That there's no way that they can be helped. Because that's exactly how I felt. I just felt like, yeah, He came for other people, but I'm different. And I mean, he came for the sick, and I was the sickest too. And He had so much mercy on my life. And now, I recently got married. God has given me a wife that loves the Lord, and that's something that I have prayed for years, since I came to know Him. And He's given me peace to live by myself, to live a single life, but recently I've just had this longing, and He's provided that. And but one thing, I was praying for a wife that would only have maybe one child, but He's given me a wife with 5 children, and I believe it was because He wants to teach me how to be a leader and teach me more responsibility, and He's given me so much peace about it. And I just want to say that just because you give your life to Jesus doesn't mean that everything's going to go good, everything's going to work out. I've given my life to the Lord 5 years ago, and so much has happened, so much that I could look at and think, where is God in all this? With my sister's murder, and resulting back to sin of the things that I used to do. But God has a greater plan for all that. He has a plan to bring Himself glory, and He uses me to do that, and I'm just so grateful. And Lord, I just want to give the Lord all the credit. He deserves it. He deserves all the glory. Thank you.